Welcome to Cooking for Balanced Hormones workshop. So today it's classic. I say it's an hour workshop, but in my mind, I'm hoping it's an hour. But I'm going to tell you it's an hour and a half just in case, because that's probably going to be more realistic. But I am going to just try to charge through this as much as possible. So feel free to ask questions if you have any. If I see them, I will try to answer them, especially if they're kind of like relevant to what I'm talking about. But sometimes they take me out of the flow. So if I miss any of your questions, so sorry, and feel free to ask them again at the end, and if I have time, I will definitely get to them. Just want to pop the chat out, one sec. So maybe just tell me in the chat sort of how familiar are you with sort of like menstrual cycle awareness and, eating nutrient dense foods. Just give me sort of like a gauge from like 1 to being like, I'm brand new to this stuff. I maybe just started tracking my cycle, or, not really into batch cooking. And then like the 5 out of 5 being you're really into this, like absolute kitchen nerd, you're into fertility awareness and all of that, just so I can make sure that I'm meeting you where you're at. I cycle sync my life. Love it. Cool. Yeah, because what I find is oftentimes the women inside of my programs and, just on Instagram are like really well resourced and really switched on. And it's just about actioning what we know, and I think this piece of information around cooking with your cycle, and really it's about like behavior change, like this isn't being spoken about in the mainstream. So it's really about like, how can we make this work from a perspective of just like a female centered perspective of nutrition and building these habits and rituals in the kitchen. So that's what we're here to do. So who's ready for cafe worthy brekkies without having to spend a shit ton of time cooking and less time thinking about dinners? Sound good? So just wishing that onto all of us. So basically, yeah, like I said, this masterclass is for you wherever you're at. I'm going to make sure that I'm speaking to you if you're like even, a practitioner and you're in this space and you're really familiar with it. I feel like personally, I'm always learning, and it's nice to just refine and get re-inspired and share amongst each other our ideas. And then if you're brand new, you're absolutely welcome here, and you don't need to feel uncomfortable or nervous for any reason. Hello. Okie dokie. So these strategies work for all different budgets. I'm especially honing in on time. So if you feel like you have no time, don't worry. I'm not going to be telling you to do a bunch of crazy stuff. However, I really provide a variety of information. So, you can pick it up if you're cooking for a family, if you're just cooking for yourself and you live alone, different skill levels. And of course, if you don't have a menstrual cycle whatsoever, this information is still going to be really handy for you. And it's handy for all people, all, for families, for children, but especially for women and those who menstruate. Okay, so when you stay till the end, I've got a little treat for you. So I'm going to give you the Rising Rhythm breakfast formula, and I'm going to do some prizes because I love a little gamification. So it's just a bit of an incentive to stay to the end and, enjoy this live energy together. So I'll be dropping those at the end and picking 10 winners for the prizes. So here's the game plan. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me and my story. I'm going to give you an introduction to Lifeblood, which is one of my little babies, one of my courses that is, the doors are officially opening as of this workshop. So I'm going to give you an intro to that. You absolutely don't need to buy anything from me. You can just come for today, get the free information, and that, and that be it. But if you're wanting more and next steps, then I want to make sure that you have those there ready for you. And we can journey together. Can keep journeying together. So we'll also be talking about how to be a well-fed woman, what that even means, and the secret to batch cooking for balanced hormones. We'll be talking about my kitchen flow meal prep method, which is, it is a lot of meal prep, but it's also everything else that goes into just making the process of feeding yourself a lot easier and more enjoyable. We'll be cutting through the overwhelm, talking about saving time, lightening the mental load. I'll be sharing my Rising Rhythm breakfast formula. If you know me, I love a formula. I love, gamification. I love these like little, I don't know, just like really scratches an itch in my brain. So hopefully that'll be really handy for you to come away with something kind of concrete that you can then, like I love a structure because I feel like it allows us to sort of lean more into the flow and the feminine and just sort of be spontaneous because we have this sort of little thing in our brain that helps us remember, okay, we do step 1, step 2, step 3. And, it's just nice and clear. And then, of course, next steps and talking about simplification. So hi, I'm Lucia. This is me. If we haven't met, I'm the founder of Ambrosia's Table, and I'm a certified period coach and a foodie. I came to this work through, as so many of us do, through my own health issues. I was struggling with chronic fatigue, and essentially, I say chronic fatigue because I was just going back to my doctor time and time again and just saying, like, what is wrong with me? I was like in my early 20s, had no energy, was just exhausted all the time. And I just kind of knew, when you're like, this is not it. So I went down this rabbit hole, and now it's my absolute pleasure and joy to be able to teach this traditional kitchen wisdom to women who want to take their health into their own hands and just make this whole, I think it can be such a should, or like, just like a space, like the healing space can be so full of like, oh, I should really get onto that. I should really do that. So I really try to bring fun and enjoyment, and just like we can fall in love with cooking and just like have this, figure it out once and for all, and then continue to figure things out along the way so that we can feel supported in the kitchen and basically less stressed. So my health journey is I wasn't kind of sick enough for the conventional health system, but I wasn't well enough to really like live the life of my dreams. Um, and yeah, I feel like, I don't know how many of you can relate to that, but I feel like we don't really know, we're not taught to aim for optimal female health. And I think I'm so glad that I followed that breadcrumb trail that took me to where I am now, because I could have easily just accepted, okay, I'm just a 2 double shot coffee a day kind of gal, Thank goodness I didn't, because now I'm here and I honestly feel like I feel like a different person in many ways. Obviously, I'm a decade down the track as well, so there's that. But yeah, I think there's so much more to health than just, it's like health for health's sake. It's about how our ability to be present, our ability to have fun and enjoy our life. So that's what I try to share. So here's some little pickies of me, and this is where we live. We moved to Tasmania. We live on a bush block. I've done many years living with an outdoor kitchen in Tasmania, and various, like, we literally lived in a shack for a while, so don't stress. Like, this approach is really flexible. We literally had a like a camping, like a car fridge for so long. So don't feel like you have to have like the chest freezer and everything sorted out. Like, this definitely does work for people at all different, just with all different situations. What else? So yeah, my approach, I take a food first approach. Obviously, there's so much to like balanced hormones. Like, what does that even mean? But I find that when we focus on eating to communicate safety and abundance to the body, and yeah, just focusing on food first, because obviously you can focus on sleep, you can focus on like nervous system work, soul work, strength training. There's so many things, but I find when you focus on one, simplify, that you're then able to have more capacity and energy to then radiate out and focus on those other areas. So that's very much what we'll be doing today. So this is your official invite to my beautiful course, Lifeblood. I'll be telling you more about it later. Again, I'm going to share as much as I possibly can with you today, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. I couldn't share a course worth of information in 1 hour, even if I tried. So if you're left like, oh my gosh, this is it, I need this information, you've got the next step. I'm giving you some sick bonuses. You know me, love a little sweet deal. So you can get $100 off and a bunch of other bonuses, which I'll share with you later on. What else? Yeah, just a note here on like, I find sometimes a lot of coaches in this space can be a little bit disconnected from reality, or maybe they live, in a really different demographic, but I really try to make this work as accessible as possible. And I feel like this course, if I charged it out as what's included, it would probably be around the $2,000 mark. So it feels so good. I'd love to come from a place of generosity and just be like, you can literally get all of this for 600 Australian dollars. So yeah, just a note on that. And yeah, what's inside of this course is if a friend came to me and like, Luch, tell me what I got to know, nothing that I don't want to know, just simplify it. Give me the recipes that are going to give me the energy to, actually implement this stuff and have better menstrual cycles and just feel confident and comfortable knowing that I'm taking good care of my body. This is what I would give them. So let's talk about what is a well-fed woman. I could really go into this. There's a lot here, but I just want to breeze through to make sure we have other time to focus on other stuff. But the main point here is I just want us to see, just remembering that, yes, I'm talking about period health, I'm talking about hormone health, but what I'm really talking about is overall health, and specifically female health, because your period is a barometer of your health. So just remembering that there's all of these things we're talking about hormones, but we're talking about having a healthy liver, having a strong appetite, strong digestion, warm hands and feet, libido, etc. This is just about having overflowing vitality. So yeah, please don't tell yourself, oh, my period's aren't that bad, I probably don't need this. It's much broader than that. So this is the how. Look, there's a lot of things you can do. Number one is tracking ovulation. I find this to be the most empowering, most important thing for really having our own data and understanding our own bodies. Obviously, this is not so relevant if you are menopausal, etc. But there's a lot more things that you can focus on here. So this is the how. So we're slowing down, we're spending more time outside, we're focusing on our circadian rhythm, we're doing that movement. You can continue to read around the circle if you would like. So just one of these pieces is the learning how to batch cook with the high energy phases of your cycle. And that's what we're zooming in on today, because let's face it, we can't do all the things all at once. And I think, just one of the most important things is just acquiring a solid understanding of female nutrition, because 90% of nutrition research is done on males. So we actually need to learn what works for our bodies, and also have a felt sense of what that means. Because it's like you can have these theories around like, oh yeah, like I know that my blood sugar needs to be balanced, blah, 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 blah. But it's like when you know what that feels like, when your blood sugar is low or high, when you know, oh, okay, yeah, I'm having this thing come up at cycle day 27 and you know exactly what you can do about it. It's just takes so much of the stress out of it, because it feels like you're on your own side, and it's not like, why is this happening, my body's in mystery. It's like, I totally know why this is happening and I can help myself out here. So inside of CycleCraft, which is a bundle, which is one of the bonuses when you join in the first 48 hours, you get all of this cycle-centric information. So that's not necessarily included in Lifeblood, because Lifeblood is just focusing on the food part. But if you are wanting to dive more into understanding how to track ovulation and batch cooking with the high energy phase of your cycle, that specific information will be found there. So this is the why. This is just a fun one. Tell me which one resonates more with you if you can read the slides. I'm going to pick which one I feel like right now. One beautiful one, it's just the one that I read first, is like to teach your daughter what you never learned from your ancestors. So I just feel like that's such a beautiful thing. So many women come to me and it's like, I wish I had have had this information earlier. And it's so beautiful to be, to be that change and to pass this on, even whether it's to children or whether it's also just to your friends and to, inspiring by the way that you live and showing an example of how to live in tune with the female body. So I guess this is, just about what if your femaleness wasn't holding you back? It's like, unfortunately, we've been taught that your period is a curse. Obviously, we know now that's not the case, but it's just the reality is it can really stop you from getting momentum throughout the month. And it can be like the world isn't made for women yet. And when we understand how to improve our hormones and to work with our cycle, it really allows us to stack the decks in our favor a little bit more. So much more than meal prep, right? So the secret to cooking for balanced hormones, in my opinion, is kitchen flow. So one of those things is meal prep, but it's just everything that goes into eating this way, eating delicious, incredible food 3 times a day. Without feeling overwhelmed. And really, the key piece here is the consistency piece, because if we're not doing it, if we're not talking about cyclical consistency, like what the heck? In 2025, this just needs to be part of the conversation when we're talking about female health. Okay, so I am going to breeze through these quite quickly again, just because I want to get to the other stuff in this particular workshop. But I'm just going to walk you through the menstrual cycle in case you are like, okay, I've kind of heard about the different phases, but just remind me again. So we'll just take a little stroll through the cycle. Okay, so winter, we're in our little love heart cave under the earth. We've got pots of tea, we've got flowers. This is where we want to be cooking as little as possible, or cooking easy recipes that don't feel hard and stressful. So this is when we want to be flicking through our recipe books. And obviously, just a note here is like, this is not hard and fast rules. This is so flowy. This is just inspiration. Just take what you like. Paying attention to your food cravings and ordering in or asking people to cook for you where possible. Spring, which is where I'm at right now. Feel free to share it in the chat if you haven't already, where you're at in your cycle, if you're currently cycling. So this is where we're preparing for the month ahead, and where our energy is rising. We want to be focusing on stocking up the pantry, stocking up the freezer, making shopping lists, basically just getting back into it, getting our head back in the game. So it's like a mountain. We're just going up and down the mountain, and ovulation being the mountain and period being the bottom of the mountain. In a summer, just like this little cartoon, time when you want to get your little titties out. This is about playing in the kitchen, making fancy desserts, trying new recipes, making large batches to freeze. Have a dinner party, like have fun with it. You don't just have to use your high energy phases for productivity. Have a romantic meal, make your monthly ferments, do those high energy things when you feel like it. Also, if you're not ovulating, you can use the phases of the moon. So with inner summer being equivalent to full moon. So if you like, obviously you can just free flow it and do it around what your energy is doing, what your schedule is like, and just go with what your needs are on a daily basis. But if you like a larger kind of more, I don't know, I hate the word woo-woo, but you get what I'm saying. More woo-woo sort of spiritual perspective, then you can follow the phases of the moon. Okay, in autumn, things feeling a little bit crunchy that week before the period. Hopefully, if our hormones are balanced, we're not going to feel too shady here. And actually, because progesterone is dominant, it's sometimes just a really cozy time and really enjoyable time to get in the kitchen and cook. Of course, we want to be leaning into what feels good. So taking stock of what's working, what's not working, use those poo-colored glasses to your advantage here. Anything that's absolutely shitting you to tears, make note for the next cycle. Throw away gross food. Sometimes, you just get that like crazy cleaning urge before your period. Use that, ride that wave, fill the freezer where possible. We want to have comfy food on hand, the food that we actually feel like eating, not meal prepping, like boring healthy food. That's not what this is about. We want really delicious, nutrient dense, snacky, wholesome, hearty meals. Preparing for winter, etc. And then the cycle starts again. So let's get into batch cooking. So tell me in the chat, what meal feels like you want to focus on the most? Like, sometimes what can be helpful is it's like, okay, let's break it into the meals. Like, what would make the biggest difference for me right now? Like, think about the moments that make the biggest difference in your day. It's like, man, if I just had 10 more minutes in the morning, like, life would feel so much more spacious. Or if I just had my lunches sorted, or if I didn't have to think about dinner, or actually everything's feeling really good, but I would just really love to not have to spend $12 on fancy crackers. Just tell me in the chat, where are we at with meals? Really wanting to focus on breakfast, dinner, lunch, breakfast, lunch. Cool. So just keep that in mind and then make note of that, write it down. Also, just a reminder again, I know I said use your notebook, but please do write this stuff down for yourself, because we always think we're going to remember it. And I'm sharing a lot of info here, so I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I just want you to come away with the pieces that you're going to be able to take them and run with it and really feel improvements and benefits from. Just a piece here around prioritizing what to batch and what not to batch, because we can kind of go crazy here. It never goes well. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So think about what's more important to you. Like, are you really focusing on time saving, or are you really focusing on money, or you're trying to balance both of those things? Because if you're, one or the other, that's going to inform the things that you focus on. And it's like, I'm not going to be making my yogurt from scratch if I know I can get really great quality yogurt. It's not that expensive from the shops. Just be smart about it, so that we're not accidentally just automatically prepping a lot of things when we could be focusing on what's going to save us the most money or the most time. Okay, I feel like that's pretty much it for that. So let's talk about different types of prep. Absolutely, we don't need to be doing all of these things, but it's just really nice, I think, I love a method. I think they're really helpful, but ultimately, you're not going to just have one thing that you stick to. I don't know anyone. I know there are people out there who do it, but I don't know that many of us who just kind of stick to one thing and roll with it. I think it's amazing to be able to have all of these different resources and tools in our toolkit to pull from when we need them. And that allows us, essentially, the whole premise of this work is being able to titrate up and titrate down according to your menstrual cycle, according to your capacity, what's going on in your life, because we don't want to be derailed every time life gets hard. Let's face it, we live in the real world. Real things happen and things can get tough, things can get busy, and we want to make sure that you're feeling supported wherever you're at in your cycle and your life, and that this feels easy and capable, not only when you're killing it, ovulating, super motivated kind of energy. So one concept we can talk about is batching sessions. I'm just gonna have a breath. Okay, so batching sessions. When I talk about batch cooking, it can mean two things. So it can be literally making big batches, which I've also got there. But batching sessions is a really key concept that I love to share inside of my Kitchen Flow meal prep method, because it's like, when you come away, when you have a little window, say you've got 45 minutes to cook dinner, you can come away and just having cooked dinner, or you can come away having also done a couple of other easy things while you're in the kitchen anyway, and it doesn't feel like you've spent extra energy, but you're coming away with more food. So it's about getting more food for less energy. So the way that we do this is we're kind of thinking about, okay, these little sessions, planning them out if you like, or just when you're sitting down at the beginning of the week, jotting down anything that you want to cook, just think, what things go together? All right, I've got the oven on. I'm going to put some roast veggies. I'm going to do banana bread. That's a bit more intensive. Then I'm not going to do any other sort of complicated recipes. Not complicated, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a bit more effort, let's face it. Then the other things I would pair with that is like something like a slow cooker meal or a freezer dump bag meal, which I'll talk to you about more soon. So it's like, you know that you're not putting a bunch of tricky recipes all together. You're putting like one hard one, one easy one, and then a few absolute no-brainers where you're just like literally putting in whole sweet potatoes into the oven. Does that concept make sense? Resonate? Feel free to chuck in the chat if you've got any questions. Don't be sorry. Somebody said, sorry, I'm late. My baby has a fever. All good, honey. You're here and you can catch the rest of the workshop on the replay if you missed it. Somebody mentioned that they're hardly hungry at breakfast, so don't worry. I will definitely speak to that later. Lunch always throws me. Yes, absolutely. I'll touch on that soon. So rollover style meal prep is sort of like just making a little bit extra. It's like it's easy to think, okay, we're batch cooking. We need to make everything in ginormous batches. No, babe, don't need to do that necessarily. Like if you've got some steamed greens, just do some extra for the next day. Sometimes with these like little rollover style prep, it's actually great to have smaller amounts because we want to use them up quickly and we don't want to end up with a fridge full of food that is like quickly going off and you're like, I don't know how to like incorporate it and use it. So just having just a little bit of cooking a little bit of extra potatoes, cooking a little bit of extra rice, or just those things where things can flow from one meal to a next. Or it might just be like cooking a double batch so that you can eat that same dinner for lunch the next day. So it's a combination. We're doing these bigger batches. We're using sessions. We're also rolling stuff over. Another thing you can play with that I share a lot that works with both of these methods is my silicon, well, I call it like my brick method, but it's about there's a brand called Super Cubes, or you can I just use silicon bread tins. So basically you fill it up with your soups and your stews, you freeze it in there, and then you pop it out, and then you can wrap it in freezer paper, or you can, Ziploc it, whatever. But the concept here is that you're not using a ton of your nice containers in the freezer and they're all disappearing. It's like much better on space. And then when you go to use these foods, the best thing is they're ready to go. You don't have to think, okay, what am I defrosting for dinner? When you just get home and you've been camping and like everything's chaotic, you're like, mate, we've got bricks. So it's about building. This is one of the things that we do inside of Lifeblood is that I teach you, and together we're cooking and we're building a library of your favorite foods in your freezer so that you're able to just reach for whatever you need and have it ready to go. So let me know if anyone's played with this concept, by the way. So all you need to do when you want to defrost it is you just chuck it into a pot, put a little bit of water at the bottom and put the lid on and just keep stirring it. In about 15 minutes, you're good to go. And the good thing, just note here, obviously, it's not, you can add in the fresh elements. You make the salad fresh, you make the rice, or like whatever you got to do. You don't have to just have like a freezer meal. It doesn't have to be just all frozen, all elements in there. I need a bigger freezer. Amen to that, baby. Like the idea of planning, because sometimes I get in the kitchen and try 3 different meals and overcomplicate it. Yes, 100%. Yeah, just having that time to think about, actually, is this plan realistic? Is this gonna set me up? Like, where am I in my cycle? Oh, I am actually in luteal. Maybe let's not make the freaking friands or whatever. Never know what meals freeze well. Look, ChatGPT, girl. Just ChatGPT. That's all I'm gonna say. Honestly, anything that's like a super stew is going to be an easy bet. Other than that, just have a little Google. If you're making something, Google or use AI. Does this thing freeze well? You're good to go. So cubes, it's pretty similar to the brick method. Pauline says, love the brick method. Brilliant idea. Yay. So glad. Yeah, I also love the brick method. Funny enough. Funny that you mentioned that. So the cubes is also just like big big ice cubes. So thinking about what things go well in here, you can make your own curry paste when you're feeling extra motivated, or if you've got heaps of stuff in the garden, you can do like pancakes, pour them into ice cube molds and just cook them in the pan super slow with the lid on. And they're like, look, I'm not going to lie, they are a bit ugly, but they're little pikelets, but they're really tasty. And when you just want to desperately need a pancake, you don't care that they're slightly ugly. What else can you do in the cubes? Pancakes, curry paste, stock paste. You can also use my bone broth concentrate. Just thinking about like getting creative about the different quantities of things, different like sizes. I can't see what's behind my head. I'm like, what is that? Something prep in the bottom. That's going to remain a mystery. Freezer ingredient prep. So what I'm talking about there is just like sometimes it's literally as simple as like marinating your meat, putting it in a Ziploc bag and putting it in the freezer. You don't have to even necessarily do cooking to prepare things in advance. That's why it's kitchen flow, because it's everything that goes into making this process easier. It's not just the cooking bit. We preserve like 40 kilos of fruit every year, and we just like fill up my cart with a ridiculous amount of fruit when it's cheap, in season, delicious. And then we get together with a bunch of friends, just chop it all up, freeze it, and then we've got that fruit there for roasting, for using in smoothies, for baking with. You don't have to go that full like homesteading end of the spectrum, but just thinking about it doesn't have to be a meal, can also be an ingredient is sort of the point there. Ingredient prep. Ingredient prep for the fridge. Pretty similar to the rollover prep, but sometimes, you just want to like wash all your lettuce and put it into a container with some paper towel at the bottom. Like it can be so easy. Like one of my favorite things to do is just cook a giant pot of potatoes in the pressure cooker and then just use that throughout the week in different ways. So don't overthink this. And just blending up a crap ton of garlic and putting it into a Ziploc bag, squishing it all out so it's flat, and then you can kind of like, hopefully this makes sense to people outside of my brain, but you sort of draw like with the back of a knife, like a line across it. So you're like cross-hatching almost so that you can break off easily little bits of garlic when it's from frozen. So little things like that, thinking about like what are you doing a lot of the time and how can you stop repeating that process. We want as much of this to be sort of automated or streamlined. Freezer dump bags is my latest obsession. I'm still learning with this, but essentially, I'm sure like maybe some of you have been doing this forever. It's definitely been around, but I just tried it recently and I was like, oh, this is good. So essentially, you're not doing any cooking. I did like buttered chicken. What did we do? Bolognese and lamb curry. And you've got your freezer bag, your Ziploc bags there. You're measuring everything out. So you're doing all the spices, the coconut cream, the everything. And with mine, I just omitted with the butter. It's kind of up to you whether you want to like some of them, there wasn't that much meat. So with the butter chicken, I put the chicken in and froze it. So everything is ready to go. And then all I need to do on that day, it's a little bit different from the bricks because you do need to know ahead of time, okay, I want to make butter chicken on Wednesday. I'm going to take it out of the freezer, on Tuesday night. And then you just dump it all into the pot or the slow cooker and you can cook it. But the benefit here and the differentiating factor, so it's not immediate, but the cool thing is you can make way more volume. So I recommend both because we definitely need stuff to instantly be able to grab from the freezer and we know it's ready in 15 minutes. But if you've got like a day, especially if you're ovulating, you can get together with girlfriends and just like we figured it out, it was 88 serves in 3 hours with two of us cooking. So like it's just like next level volume, and then it's just like another thing to have amongst all of these different tips and tricks. I think that's everything on that. Oh yeah, dump bags. Also, you can do your marinated meat. You can do like smoothie bags as well. I'm sure there's like a bunch of other things. I probably would just like nice to have a few smoothie bags just for those times where you're like rushing to the gym, or you're like absolutely starving. You don't have time for lunch, but you know you need something. So it's just like almost like just an immediate like little snack kind of thing. And then, the rest of the time you can just make regular smoothies. That's probably how I would use that hack. Just checking in with the chat. Genius with the garlic. I know, right? I actually am like reminding myself, I'm like, I need to do that again, because when I did that, it was so good. Every time I like used the garlic, I was like, oh, this is amazing. You can also do it with onion and garlic, or you can even just make like a little, onion, garlic, carrot, celery, which is like a base of like so many meals. Love the concept of your Lifeblood course. Worried that it might be just so much content to go through and I would feel discouraged. Do you have any advice or ways to keep us accountable or motivated? Oh, babe, don't worry. I got your back. So particularly with this course, I essentially created it to be really easy to go through. So, I mean, I will walk through it a bit later, but just to address the question real like succinctly, it's 8 weeks. Every 2 weeks, you listen to an audio lesson and you choose stuff to cook. You get a selection. I love to cater things so that you don't feel overwhelmed. That's a very big like part of what's important for me. And it's like, if I'm honest, it's like there's a million recipes on the internet. Like, you don't need to join this course to get my recipes. The whole point of this is that you do get my recipes. You know that they're going to be easy ones to follow. You know that they're going to be hormone healing, but it's also about like just taking the blinkers in a little bit and just having like how beautiful to be handed 15 recipes every 2 weeks. We've got the group chat. We're all messaging, oh, I'm going to cook this. You just pick what you're capable of doing, and then you're able to listen to the audio lesson when you have time, when you're cooking, when you're in the car, when you're walking, whatever. So that's sort of hopefully that helps. And yeah, I guess that's why this course is normally like what's called evergreen, which is not live. This particular one is live. I don't know when I'm going to be doing it again for the foreseeable future. So as far as accountability and motivation, that's perfect for that. All right, so common mistakes. Somebody mentioned about lunch, and I wanted to talk about that because I guess this is the meal timing piece. So some of us really struggle with brekkie, and a lot of, I find, particularly like us who work at home, can really struggle with lunch, because it's like, well, we know we're having our brekkie, but sometimes, especially if we're eating like eggs and like all of this protein, like we can be really full for a long time, which is great, but we want to make sure that we're having regular, spaced out, cyclical, on a daily cycle, regular times that our body can expect to receive food, because that is how our digestive juices, our digestive enzymes, like it's actually been proven in studies that when you eat at regular times, your body anticipates that and starts to produce those juices at that time. So you're going to be more likely to digest. And I just think it's cool because I'm a cycle nerd. I'm like, oh, the cycles of the day make so much sense. So making sure that we're not getting to that starving state. That's when our blood sugar's low, stressing our body out. We want to have our hunger come on. We want to be hungry, but not starving. We want it to sort of come on gently, and then we eat. And it's not like, that real hangry. If you're hangry, sorry, but it's a clue that your blood sugar is not happy with you. So yeah, if lunch is an issue, like really focus in on that and make sure that you've prepped your lunches. Even if that's the only thing you prep, literally just set aside 45 minutes to make 2 things and you're sorted for the week. What else do I want to talk about? So yeah, I think one of the big mistakes I see is like really this purist wellness mindset. And I think it's so understandable, it's like we can get caught, it's almost like combined with shiny object syndrome or whatever. It's like there's so many little things. Oh, I want to do CMOS. Oh, I want to do this, and oh, I can't be eating this because and it's like we're really focusing on getting things perfect rather than focusing on the things that actually make the biggest difference. Like, babe, just try eating 3 meals a day. Literally, I don't care. I don't care if you're eating food that is less than you know, non-Instagram worthy food, if you want to put it that way. Like, even if it's just like, that there's like a takeaway shop near your house and you're going to go there, and yeah, it's not ideal, but it's like it definitely has protein and carbs, and eating is always better than not eating. So really not getting too rigid in that mindset of like, it needs to be perfect, otherwise I'm not going to eat. That's something that I could scream from the rooftops. So not using the freezer. We're not really taught to use the freezer. It's so easy to just have it be this ugly little graveyard of annoying things of like, I don't even know what that is, and that's like 6 months old, and or having all of these good intentions and like being like, I'm gonna meal prep, and you put it in the freezer and then you forget what it is and you're grossed out and you never want it. You just like don't reach for it. So it's really also about having a system to use the stuff in the freezer. Don't just cook, prep, and then not use it. Like, when it's the week before your period or you're super busy, like when you're planning for the week, set aside time and be like, okay, what have I got in the freezer? What am I going to eat? And planning your week can literally be that. You don't have to be prepping. It can be a combination of just putting down things you've already got ready to go, as well as a few meals that you might cook at the time if you don't have capacity to prep. Not doing big enough grocery shops. I live in the bush, as you know, middle of nowhere. So we have to be really prepared with this. And I found it really, really helpful because it can be kind of annoying. You're not spending more money when you're just constantly going and doing these big shops. So that's one big piece that we focus on it's just another one of those little annoying things that we can eliminate and really give us that kitchen flow. And of course, focus on that in the course. So not cooking enough. I'm talking about volume here. And also a little side note here is like, if you're new to cooking and this feels really overwhelming and hard, sometimes you just need to have more time, just cook more things, and it starts to become easy. So it's like there's no fast track in healing naturally through food, but you absolutely can make the process more enjoyable and faster just from this perspective of like having these systems and like learning from my mistakes, if you want to put it that way. So meal timing, not using the freezer, not doing big enough grocery shops, not taking stress management seriously. This is a very big piece. And I find it's kind of like a benefit of meal prep in a way is that from a physiological perspective, you're really looking after yourself from the stress point, but also mentally, the mental load that's relieved when you're like, I actually know what we're eating for the next, 5 days. How awesome. You don't have to sort of have this background stressor. Just remembering that when we're, not having an ideal brekkie or, when we're in this state of stress, if we wake up when we're getting into survival mode, it can feel really good. Cortisol feels good. It's kind of like you feel high, So it's like this buzzy sort of feeling. But ultimately we're kind of living on borrowed time when we're tapping into that too much. And what happens is you're making cortisol instead of making pregnenolone. And pregnenolone is the hormone that's the mother hormone for a lot of other female sex hormones, one of them being progesterone. And when I'm talking about what is balanced hormones, obviously it's a lot of things, but the main two key sex hormones is estrogen and progesterone. So the typical thing we see is too much estrogen, not enough progesterone. So we really want to do everything we can to have more progesterone. That way we're going to be more fertile. A fertile woman that is healthy. That is female health. Even if you don't want to have a baby, that's what it looks like. Progesterone is what makes you feel good the week before your period rather than like hellish. And when we're living on cortisol, we're depleting our minerals, our thyroid function, imbalancing our sex hormones. One big piece here is under eating calories or under eating nutrients. So we really want to make sure that we're getting enough food, and it's so easy to accidentally not be like actually be under eating calories without knowing, and that can have such a huge impact to our hormones. So we really want to make sure we're eating enough, we're eating regularly enough, and we're actually eating enough nutrients. So sometimes what we're doing is we're overeating calories but under eating nutrients. So we need to make sure that we're getting enough carbs, enough protein, enough healthy fat, healthy everything, but and enough micronutrients. So that's one thing that comes in with planning, is you're able to plan in variety of your meals, of your proteins, of your carbs, so that you're actually making sure you get enough of the right nutrients. And then of course, if they're prepped, it just makes it easier to have them on a more regular basis. Not embracing animal foods. Obviously, if you're here, I'm like, I feel like you kind of know what my vibe is, but quite funny if that's the verse you're hearing. So yeah, if you are in that space where you're like, oh, I eat meat, but like the reality is you might eat chicken once a week and maybe like some sausages, but you're not really getting enough quality protein at every single meal. Sometimes there's this sort of gap of people that gets missed because they're like, oh no, I'm not a veg, I'm not a vegan, I don't have to think about that. But it's like, are we eating enough organ meats? Are we getting enough nutrient dense foods? Are we getting enough quality protein on a regular basis? Probably not. I wasn't. It's very easy to undereat protein. So that is another key thing there. Just touching with the chat. Really struggle with meal planning. My brain goes empty when I try to plan, and I'm worried that I don't feel like eating what I've planned beforehand. Yeah, 100%. Son, I hear you, and it's a weird little thing, you know. Don't worry, I've got you. I'm going to talk about some of my some of the lists that you can turn to. Actually, that couldn't have been like more perfect timing. I love that I read that then. That's very satisfying. So one of the key things I talk about is having a master list. I love a list. Hands off my list, girlies. We want to be able to reach for a list when we're planning, because we don't want to have to do that thinking all of the time. I initially got this idea. I used to be, random story, but I used to be a face painter for kids, and kids would always ask me like, what can you paint? And I'd be like, I don't know, like Spider-Man, butterfly, whatever. And I would always forget all the things that I could do. So then eventually I just like made a board, I printed out photos, and then all of a sudden I had like, oh, you can have like a rainbow kitten, or you can have like a forest fairy, because I could remember all of these faces that I painted. So essentially we want to create this, but for your meals. So a master list for groceries, a master list for what you always want to have stocked in your freezer, a master list for everything that's in your fridge. This is what we talk about in Lifeblood, but you absolutely don't need to do the course to make these lists. The main one you want to focus on, though, is the master list of meals. So what this looks like, you can use these headings. I don't know if it's a bit small, you might be able to read it. These headings are just here to inspire you. So like snacks, nourish bowls, salads, sides, baked, broth-based, sweets, veg, protein, oven, like just so you can get all the things out of your mind that you like to cook and you like to have on hand. But making sure you have this list, even if like literally one of my one-on-one clients lately, she had 5 things on her list, and that is more than enough. Think now, and if you want to chat it in the box, pop it in the chat, and then we can like share these, you know, favorite recipes, even if it's literally just like bolognese, favorite curry, chicken soup. And then what we can do, which I'll speak to, which slide is that? I think it's the next slide, about what we do with those meals, because we can then think about what we can make with those meals. So 5 meals becomes 15 meals. So main list, I'd love you to go away and experiment with making a master list, even if that's just a brainstorm of 5 of your favorite meals that you cook on a regular basis. Put this piece of paper, put it in your notes, pin it to the top of your notes, put it somewhere you can easily access it, and add to it over time. The second list, like just prioritize these lists, is an incoming list, or things you want to cook, not now, but in the future. So that when you see a recipe on Instagram, save the link, put it in your notes, because otherwise you're never going to cook it. Having a collection of these things so that when you're doing your weekly cooking, you can pull from recipes you know and love that are easy, no-brainers, and then you can incorporate some new ones so that you're not getting caught in like a rut. So yeah, planning literally as easy, like the easiest possible form of this is just choosing 3 things every week, even if that's all you do. This can be such a game changer. And this is actually where I recommend people start, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed with meal prep. 3 things: 2 familiar recipes, 1 new recipe. If you're bleeding, you have no capacity, or you're busy, 3 familiar recipes. So it's 2 from the master list, 1 from the incoming list, or 3 from the master list. Make a sense? Love making big batches of sauces and condiments just for exactly. Yep, 100%. Yeah, don't even get me started on condiments. I love a good condiment. I feel like they just take the most boring prep to like all of a sudden, this is delicious. Love making big batches of caldo. What's caldo? Hot? We love batch cooking. Spag bowl, savory mince. Yeah. When you talk about savory mince, what are you prepping? You're just cooking up the mince meat? Love making big batches of sauces, condiments. I already read that. Lemon juiced raw liver to turn into pate. Gorgeous. Yeah, that's another one I forgot with the cubes is you can blend up liver and pop it into the ice cubes so that you're able to just pop those little cubes into your meal when you're frying up the onions like a soup or a stew or something like that, so you can sneak in those extra nutrients. Again, another thing I teach you inside of Lifeblood. Just letting you know we can't see the master list properly. Okay. I can't zoom in or anything. There's nothing I can do about that. But the headings are ferments, veg, protein, oven, slow cooker, soak and sprout. So that's like anything like lentils or something like that. Or little sprouts. Condiments, snacks, snack burger, wraps, sweets, baked, salad sides, nourish bowl, broth base. There you go. And yeah, if you're feeling overwhelmed, just start with breakfast. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I want you to come away with something very tangible and very easy. So what I mentioned, this is like another one of my methods, woman of many methods. The ripple method is essentially you nail one thing, you then learn a bunch of other things you can cook with that. So an example of one of the girls who conveniently, I didn't even plan this, but she did the last live batch of Lifeblood that I did in 2023, the first round. And she learnt how to do this roast chicken. She loves it. She still uses it today. Where you cook 2 roast chickens, by the way, that's my number 1 tip if you're cooking for, more than just one person. But even if you're just cooking for one, cook 2, freeze the rest. Then you pull all of the meat off the chickens. You use the bones. You can make the broth. You can make broth rice with that. And then just like brainstorm, there's literally a million things you can do with this. You can add it into pad thai. You can add it into pasta sauce. You can add it into noodle soup. You can make chicken broth. You can make even like breakfast soup. You can make a Caesar salad. Like there's, I don't need to continue to read that. But the idea is that this one recipe unlocks. Sometimes it's only 3. Sometimes it's many, many more. Sometimes it's like 10 to 15. Feel free to brainstorm in the chat as well, like anything that you would just use roast chicken for as well. Okay, this looks bad, but this is what I'm currently batch cooking as I listen. I love that because I saw the picture first and I was like, what is this? What is it? Have you written? Oh yeah, wild rice, coconut milk. Oh, it sounds a lot better than it looks. I'm not gonna lie. Salt, milk, vanilla, mashed banana, egg yolks, mesquite, maca powder, rice porridge to serve with some extra protein. Damn, love it. Also love that you're multitasking. So good. Topped with cranberries and walnuts. Yum. Topped with rose petals. I love it. Rose petals on everything, please, always. Another big piece here is planning. Like I said, it can just be planning those 3 things. But what I recommend and what I teach inside of the program is just a little bit more of an extensive way to plan. Of course, like everything, I titrate it, start simple, add in the next layer, add in the next layer. But just viewing your weekly planning and having a day that's before you go to the shops, before the butcher closes, before whatever needs to happen, because sometimes there's these blocks that happen every week and we forget what they are. So making sure you've sat down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long you have, to think about a few things to cook. Don't overcomplicate it. Doesn't have to be too extreme. But just giving yourself that time and space to actually think can make a massive difference. Another fun one I did with a one-on-one client recently, which might be useful to some of you, is having a themed night. You can do this for every single night of the week, or you can do it for just the weeknights, or you can do it for a few nights. I'm talking about having Friday night pizza, Wednesday night Mexican, Sunday night roast. Those things are really helpful and they lighten the mental load. Even if you just have a few, it's just a fun idea. You can sprinkle it in. If it works, it works. All right, let's talk about brekkie, baby. So tell me in the chat, how do we feel about protein at breakfast? Are we struggling with that? Do we think we're getting enough? Are we unsure? I closed the chat by accident. Where is he? There we go. 2 eggs kind of girl. Yeah. And I don't want to be an a-hole, but it's like 2 eggs is really good, but sadly it's only 50% of the protein that we need. So that's why we're here. And I got you. By the end of this little section, the Rising Rhythm Breakfast Formula, you're going to have heaps of ideas. And I'm giving you this in a PDF. So don't worry. You don't need to write all of this stuff down, the breakfast stuff. So you can have all of my ideas ready to go and you can keep playing with it and implementing it. Protein, it was solely coffee for the longest time. Yeah, 100%. You're not alone. I hear it all the time. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. Eating more than 2 eggs makes me want to cry. What's NGL mean again? I feel like I've seen that. Yes. Okay. So first piece of information before I get into the nitty gritty on carbs and protein and blah, blah, blah. You don't need to eat it all in one go. This morning, guess what I ate? 2 eggs and sourdough toast and kimchi. No big deal. And you know what I'm going to eat after this? Ideally, I would have had it already by now because it's a bit late. But this is an exception to the rule because I'm doing a workshop. But I'm just going to have a protein smoothie. So just the biggest tip I could give you is you can break it into 2 things. If you're struggling with appetite, we want to retrain. Appetite is a sign of health. And don't worry if you're not hungry in the morning, but there's a lot that we can do. We want to really support your liver and we want to get into that regular flow of meal prep so you can have a regular flow of consistent meals throughout the day to retrain appetite. If you're not hungry, sometimes a smoothie goes down better than a hot meal. One of the recipes that inside of Lifeblood is my protein panna cotta, and I've got a mango lassi version. I've got a berry version. You can... And essentially, that is just a protein smoothie that you set with gelatin. So it's very simple, but sometimes, just having these extra little things that you can chuck in. So, you wake up, you want to go for your morning walk or whatever it is. You don't have time to eat the full meal. Just eat something. If you're doing intense exercise, the only caveat here, so normally I'm saying we want to be getting protein and fat and carbs at every single meal and snack. The only exception to this rule is if you are waking up and you are doing a run. I don't necessarily recommend this anyway, but if you love it and that's what you're doing, we want to just fuel with carbs, pure carbs, which sounds absolutely utter insanity, but this is backed by actual research on female bodies. So you want to aim for about 10 grams of carbs. If this is 10 to 30 if you're a full-on athlete, that's the upper end. But just having half a banana and going to your intense fitness class, then having your really solid protein, carbs, and fat kind of meal within 45 minutes of exercise. So hopefully that helps, because I feel a lot of us can kind of just get a bit caught with the morning routine and when do I eat and when do I exercise and da-da-da, when does all this stuff happen? Yeah. But yeah, you don't have to eat it all at once. You can just eat your little yogurt and berries, do your journaling, I don't know, breastfeed your baby, do whatever you got to do, and then have a proper brekkie when you can. I'm stressing often that I'm not getting Enough protein. Yeah, totally. Okay, so this is why it's so beautiful, because it's like oftentimes breakfast out of all the meals, it's the one that we eat the same, like we repeat it. So you want to get it right. If you are brand new to this, ignore everything that I say about calorie tracking, okay? Just make sure you're ticking the box: protein, fat, carbs, yeah? If you have been in the game for a while and you want to take things up a notch, then I really recommend refining it, because it's like, just get it. Sometimes you're not aware, but you might actually be under eating calories, or you might be getting like 50 grams of protein, and actually you want to make more space for carbs. So we just want to like play around, refine this, because then obviously we just repeat. And yeah, it makes a big difference if you're eating it every single day. So step 1, we're choosing our digestive aid. Step 2, we're choosing one protein source. Step 2, we're choosing a secondary protein source. 3, we're getting a carb in there. Then we can add extras, and then we choose a drink. That's just how we're building the brekkie, and I'm going to dive into all of these steps more. Protein's important. Obviously, it's the muscle meats. It gives us structure in our body. The carbs are important. It's the sugars. It gives us energy. The fats are really important as well. They help us to make hormones and give structure to our cells. So the most common one I see is people not eating enough protein, but oftentimes it can also be not eating enough carbs or eating too much fat. So yeah, just want to have a play with this. Fat is healthy, fat is good, but we have it available to us in very high quantities that our ancestors didn't. And if we want protein and carbs, we just want to make sure that we're not accidentally overeating, because here's the thing is that with fat has 9 calories per gram, carbs have 4 calories, protein has 4. So it just has more. So it's easy to accidentally just, I'm just cooking with ghee, and then accidentally all the macros are out for the breakfast. So we just want to refine that if that's the stage that you're up to. So why it's important to have carbs at brekkie is our liver's number one job is to maintain our blood sugar. So when we are just eating, either not eating brekkie at all or not eating within 1 hour to 30 minutes of waking, we're just putting stress on our liver to maintain our blood sugar. So what it does is it's going to be, it's going to be having to produce its own blood sugar. It's putting stress on the adrenals, and it's breaking down muscle to make fuel. So we do not want to be getting into that cycle. That's why meal timing, again, really important. Dietary guidelines are based on outdated nitrogen testing. So there's a new method, which is the IAAO method. And this is why the protein recommendations that I give, and you probably see shared a lot, you're like, hang on, like, I swear, like, the dietary guidelines just say you need like 50 grams. This is so outdated. And unfortunately, the thing is, like, research takes 17 years to trickle down into policy and practice. So we want to go off the most current research, especially if you're breastfeeding, especially if you're having a baby, the needs just go up. So for a regular female, 1.2 grams per lean kilo of lean body mass, yeah? 1.2 grams. So it's 1.2 grams times however much you weigh, or, and if you're a bit overweight, you can minus a little bit off there to give you the correct amount that you should be aiming for. What else? Yep. If you are pregnant or breastfeeding, it's 1.7 grams. And same goes for your needs for protein and your ability to synthesize it go up. Ability goes down, needs go up as you age. So you're going to need to eat more. Okay. So here are just some ideas for the first type of protein. So I'm starting off strong, straight in the deep end, fish patties for breakfast. No, you don't have to do this. This is only if this seems yummy. I've actually got the recipe for these in the course, but, just look up fish patties. It's pretty basic. Eggs, having a protein smoothie, cottage cheese, yogurt, any kind of meat. And ideally, we want to aim for lower fat cuts of meat. So not sausages, not bacon. I know, radical. Just have those on the weekend. Or if you are trying to put on weight or you need to get more calories in, focus on those. But generally speaking, if we're trying to balance our macros, you want to aim for something like corned beef is one of my absolute favorites, or go for ham instead of bacon. So we really want to focus on quality protein. Yes, plant-based proteins are super valid. They have protein in there, but a lot of them do not have enough of the essential amino acids in the amounts that we need. So like leucine, lysine, methionine. And when there's not enough of this, it limits protein synthesis. So this is why it's a bit tricky when you use an app and you enter everything in. So you'd be like, oh my God, there's like 8 grams of protein in your sourdough toast. It's like, sorry, honey, BS. That is not true. So we want to just be measuring the protein from the animal sources, whether that be, your yogurt, your cheese, your eggs, whatever, just to give us a more accurate take. Any other additional sources can be giving us like a bonus bit of protein, or most likely we're actually just eating it for the fiber and the carbs if it's something like lentils. So yeah, getting the protein intake is so important and just can really help to have a cascade of benefits for your health. So just feeling grounded, feeling more calm, having the ability to think more clearly. All of this stuff comes down to making sure that you've got enough protein. Also being able to like put muscle on, those kind of things. We want to make sure that our blood sugar is not too high and not too low. So that's why the eating regularly piece comes in. That's why we need to have carbs. And when I say carbs, I'm not talking about like just like white sugar and white flour. I'm talking about like your honey, your root veggies, your potato, your fruit, and your rice, your grains, and preparing them properly, and even lentils and legumes if you tolerate them well. So one little note here is you don't really want to be eating protein alone because it's going to be stressing your liver out. Too much protein and not enough carbs will force your body to start making its own sugar again. So how it does this is by breaking down the muscle tissue, and it's going to be then stressing out your liver, stressing out your adrenals, which is 2 big no-nos for overall hormone health. Okay, so this is where like the cafe worthy brekkie comes in, because it's like when you can prep one of your protein sources. So maybe it's like you cook your eggs fresh, but you've got like some chorizo bean mix in the freezer that you just take out, or you've got some kind of like cottage cheese pancakes in the freezer. You can have these yummy sides, and so you're not getting bored. So on IG, like one of the stories that I posted was like, if you had a magic wand, what would you pick? And one of those things was the cafe worthy brekkie. So this is where this comes in. So here you've got, like I mentioned, the ham, the corned beef, any kind of slow cooker meat, protein powder, absolutely valid. We just want to go for if you tolerate dairy, a whey protein powder, and we're going to want to go for a concentrate, not an isolate. That one's going to be less processed. You can absolutely add your cheeses here. White cheese is going to be lower in fat depending on what your goals are. You can aim for more of like cottage cheese or ricotta or feta cheese over your yellow cheeses, which will be higher in fat like Parmesan or cheddar. Okay, so we've got first, second source of protein. Then we're going for our carbs. This can be fruit, especially if you are not finding that you're dealing well with things like sourdough and grains and starches. Lean into fruit because it's going to be much easier to digest. And you can also pair your carbs as well. Another thing I talk about in Lifeblood, pairing them together to help with the digestion of carbs. So if you don't do that well with starches, just have a little bit of rice and then you can have your fruit. Also, just this concept that you can have your brekkie separated. So it's like you can have your savory brekkie and then you have your little dessert brekkie. So like your protein panna cotta or yogurt or a smoothie. It doesn't all have to like go together. Think about it like maybe like, those toddler plates that are broken into like little sections. You can even think about it like that, just having your little things like that. So yeah, oats, beans, pancakes, panna cotta, getting in your protein, getting in your carbs here. So this is just an extra fun thing. If you're feeling like bored and you want to build it up so it's not just protein and carbs every day, you can add in your like fun things like your nuts or your seeds or your greens. And also like we really want to be focusing on fiber here. That's going to be easy to digest, mostly cooked vegetables, adding in your condiments, your ferments. This is just really going to give us much more variety. And if you're really going for that cafe worthy brekkie, like you can batch fry like mushrooms and garlic, or like whatever like sides you would order at a cafe, and pop them into those ice cube trays like I mentioned before. And then you can just pop one of those out on the day, and then you've like got these delicious sort of like more like weekend style breakfasts, even on just like a busy work day. Would love to know how to boost up a smoothie so it has enough protein. Yeah, so absolutely use your own common sense here. I feel safe eating raw eggs, and if you're having quality organic eggs and that's something you feel comfortable with and you've done your own research, then absolutely go ahead and do that. I normally, what I will put into my own ones is I'm putting a protein powder, I'm putting some kind of fruit, I'm either putting like milk or like coconut water or just water, and then what else? Yogurt. That's kind of like a yogurt-based one. Or if I'm just doing a plain one, sometimes I'll just do water, protein powder, cacao, and a few dates. So some of those will have more or less. Just measure up the protein. And remembering the protein smoothie is not your whole meal. So we don't need to worry about bulking it up much more than that, because it's just part of the meal. And you don't need to have a smoothie this size. You can have like a mug size of smoothie as well if you find like, oh, I can't possibly eat that much. Don't worry about it. You can make a big jug in your blender, have that as a rollover prep thing, put it in the fridge, and then you've got the smoothie for the next 3 days. So when I'm talking about, can you please recommend a protein powder that isn't whey? Currently use pea and rice protein. Yeah, so with the pea and we don't want, for the protein quality and absorbability, we really don't want to be going for a plant-based protein. So make sure to be going for an animal-based one. So you'll be able to get like a collagen powder, something like that, or just look up like animal-based non-dairy. You can use an egg white protein powder is a really popular one, really high quality. Just send me a message on Insta saying protein powder, please, and I will take a photo of mine. That's just the one I use. Not necessarily going to be the best one for everyone, but the ingredients are like 2 things. So that's what we want to aim for. I know, Son, I recommended my one to you. You can put the brand name if you've got it access. Maybe put that in the chat for people right now, if possible. Right, choosing our little drink. So you can have like your coffee or even have a bone broth. Bone broth is a very underrated way of getting like way more protein in as well. So, I think for a cup, I think off the top of my head, like 8 grams of protein. So, which is amazing. So typically we're going to be aiming for like 20 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast. So and 2 eggs is like 16 grams. So we just want to make sure that we're adding in, like I said, these secondary sources. You can make matcha cubes. I have a recipe for those on my Instagram, where essentially you just prep all the ingredients with even gelatin and any little adaptogens in there, and you just have the cubes, and you can just pop them into the blender with hot water and whiz them up when you're ready. You can also get your carbs from juice if you prefer. So if you prefer a low-carb brekkie, like eggs, meat, and vegetables, like non-starchy veggies, then you can have like some fruit or a fruit juice on the side to get your carbs in there as well. You can read the rest of the... Thank you, Son. So yeah, that's the one that I use. And I just went down a little rabbit hole and had a look. I'm sure there's other good ones out there too. That's just the one that I happened to pick. So again, how many grams of protein I would recommend is going to vary based off of you. So it's 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight of lean body mass. So you can times your weight by 1.2, and then that goes up to like 1.7 if you're breastfeeding or if you're a bit older. Great. That's awesome. Thanks, Chelsea. I love bone broth powder. I love bone broth protein powder from Paleo Valley. So yeah, so the way you do that is, and then say you get your total for the day, then you just divide it up by how many meals, and just divide that total number by 3. You can even just aim for a little bit lower than that, because if you're going to have some snacks as well, you can make sure you're having protein and carbs at your snacks as well. So if you're not having anything, a really great starting point is just some. Again, like I said, don't worry about measuring any of this, or don't worry about the macros yet. If you're just having coffee right now, just have something and make sure that something has protein and carbs in it. Then the next step is making sure you're getting those 2 sources of protein, because that's going to cover you. And then if you're already getting that, then you can go to the next step and weigh everything and make sure you're getting enough. Okay, so it's just fun to have some, and like, you know me, I love lists. Here you go. So you've got your weekday brekkies, just having like a little list of the things that you would like to eat throughout the week. I work from home, so obviously I don't have a child, so I've got capacity to cook these kind of foods. It might look really different for you. So have a weekday list and a weekend list, just so that you're able to remember the easy, quick things that you can cook when you don't have time. And then remember the yummy, exciting, delicious things that add variety in, because this is so much more than just eating for the sake of being healthy. It's also about enjoying our food and yeah, having a good time. So remembering, honorary mention to the better than nothing breakfasts here, avo and toast, cheese and 1 egg absolutely counts as something. Don't get caught up on what I'm recommending as the best case scenario if that's not what's possible for you that day. Whatever you can do is good enough. And just remembering to keep checking in with your capacity and incorporating these different techniques where possible. And yeah, it's like absolutely in the sort of like ancestral health pro-metabolic space, it's like we're really talking about these savory brekkies, but like if all you can get into is some porridge and you're going to mix in some collagen powder, like that's freaking awesome. Or having just a smoothie is always going to be better than nothing. So here is just a bit of info on macros, a bit of refinement if you want to dive more into this. Just remembering macros is minimums rather than maximums. This is not about like restricting what we're eating. This is making sure that we're getting enough. And also just being smart and seeing information there is like, oh, I'm accidentally eating way too much, but mainly it's so that we're getting enough. Again, not everyone needs to go to this level. Calories are units of energy. And how many calories you burn is dependent on a lot of things. So we really don't want to get too caught on like the details of the calories and the macros. Like just remember to like zoom out and just take a relaxed, like sort of curious approach to this rather than rigid. This is just about the refinement. Like I sometimes do a brekkie audit on Instagram, and one of the things I did was like this brekkie, I gave it a 10 out of 10 because that's what it looks like on paper. 2 eggs, 1 egg white, scrambled eggs with cottage cheese, and fruit. And I'm like, that sounds sick. She's technically following this Rising Rhythm formula. The 2 eggs, tick. Secondary source of protein, tick. And we've got the carb source, tick. Should all be good. But when I entered it into Cronometer, by the way, if you want to have a play, you can use MyFitnessPal or Cronometer, something like that, and it came out as 367 calories, so just nowhere near enough, or maybe not nowhere near enough. I don't know, maybe she was on a diet, and if she was trying to restrict calories for some reason, if she was in an intentional calorie deficit, that might be why. But you might be under eating. The point is you might be under eating without realizing. So I've covered a lot. We're nearly at the end. Thanks for sticking with me. If you're feeling overwhelmed, just coming back to tracking your cycle, looking for patterns in your cycle, cooking more when you have energy. That's as simple as it is. And focus on protein and breakfast and just do your best. Next steps, obviously, take Lifeblood and get CycleCraft for free. Yay! Okay, here it is. Here is your official invite. So you're invited to join me for the next 60 days of Lifeblood. It's always such a fun time because, I just love a group energy. I love I love the vibes. It's like we're going on a cooking journey together. I'm in your corner. We're building out your repertoire. We're getting you into a really good kitchen rhythm. So this gets to feel so much easier. And just so you get to be nourished up to your eyeballs, and just really feel like, yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling grounded. I'm feeling energized. And every cycle, that you're moving towards deeper nourishment, and things just start to feel easy, and you're building momentum rather than just coming back to square one every single cycle. So this is for you if you're like ready to just action what your body already needs. You're like, yes, I'm on board. I know what I need to do. Just haven't done it yet. And, maybe you've made a lot of progress, but you're like just ready to supercharge it and get to that next level. Just really prioritize having balanced hormones, supporting your liver, supporting your adrenal function, your thyroid, having a healthy metabolism, building muscle, whatever your goals are, but basically just communicating safety and abundance to your body the number one goal. Just really getting out of fight or flight mode. Whatever your goals are, whether you're like breastfeeding, maybe you want to have a baby, maybe you're really wanting to just support yourself in menopause, or maybe you're like, I think I'm entering perimenopause and I want to make sure that I'm just nourished. My stores are up and I know how to eat for female health. Or maybe you just come off the pill and you want to rebalance focus on healing your gut and getting your nutrient stores back up. Or maybe you just want to have healthy cycles. You're sick of feeling crappy at ovulation. You're sick of having PMS. All of those reasons, and just in it for the food as well, are super valid. So if you're sold on the importance of like the animal's food stuff, but you're like, I actually just not that confident cooking meat, maybe you used to be vegan, then this is definitely for you. Or maybe it's just like an organization thing. It's like, I want to eat the meat. I love eating meat. But when it comes down to it, I just don't always have protein on hand, and it's expensive and we got to get smart with this, So if that's feeling relevant for you, then you're going to love Moon Menu. Which causes this? Life blood. Obviously, it's really great for you if you're vegan, vegetarian, or like if you have been in the past, sorry, and if you want to not be anymore. So I really love to like teach this from, like we talk about the emotional side, we talk about the ethics of eating meat, we talk about the environmental aspect, like this is a multifaceted thing. And sometimes when you eat meat, it's just really nice to like explore that, make sure you feel really good about it. And like everyone's line is different. Maybe you're like, you know what, I just don't eat chicken. I don't feel good about that. Whatever it is, just that you feel really comfortable, informed, confident, and that we're doing it in a really like gentle way that's honoring the fact that, hey, it is actually really sad that animals have to die so that I can eat this way. Like that is so valid. And I feel like a lot of people in this space are just like, I just want to talk about science. And it's like, yes, that's so relevant. And we need to understand the nutritional side because I believe it informs the ethical side. If I didn't have to eat meat, maybe I wouldn't eat meat. But when we understand why it's so important for multi-generational health, for pregnancy, for conception, for female health, for overall health for all humans, it really changes the conversation. So this is really about focusing on that cyclical consistency, the consistency piece, because ultimately it doesn't matter. Like if you're like really motivated sometimes and you're falling off, it's like, this is so exhausting. And I really just would love to help you to get to a place where this feels easy and you're not falling off the wagon every single month or every few months. In this course, we're stripping back all the shiny objects. We're getting rid of the fad diets. We're just focusing on building this unshakable, consistent kitchen routine that you can fall back on no matter how busy you are, no matter what your capacity is like. And yeah, a female centered approach to female health. How radical. So this is what it looks like if you're like, okay, I'm in. This sounds great. What are we doing? Where are we going? I'll get Rochelle to drop the link in the chat so you can suss it out. Already in there. Sorry if I missed it. So yeah, if you join, you're getting the early bird price. You get $100 off, and you get a shit ton. Sorry if there's children around, of bonuses. So there's, I believe, around $500 worth of bonuses, including the early bird price. So You join now. The course starts on the 23rd of this month. It's 8 weeks. Every 2 weeks, you're getting 15 new recipes and you're getting audio lessons, sometimes one, sometimes two. They're usually around 15 minutes. Some of them are longer than others. But essentially, it's just, I want this to be so easy for you that the focus of this is on actually cooking. It's like, yeah, you can get stuck in, you can learn about the macros, you can refine all of this stuff, but it's like ultimately we're just having a good time. We're cooking, we're using it, like leaning on each other to stay motivated, to try new recipes. And yeah, I feel like that's just such an important piece of staying consistent, is like the fun piece. So there's 3 group calls throughout the 8 weeks, 2 group coaching calls. So I'm literally getting in your corner, answering your questions, coaching you on the things that are relevant to you, answering your questions. And then there's 1 co-cooking call. So I've never done one of these before. Usually I do like cook-alongs where I give you the exact recipes. This time we're doing a co-cooking call. So it's just like 90-minute session. We both get to we all getting on there, cooking together in our kitchen, and it's just about like accountability. And the fun thing about me not having to lead it is it's like we just get to relax and chat, and it's just like cooking with friends, essentially, is the vibe that I wanted to go for here. And you get to cook the recipes you most want to cook. So beforehand, we're going to choose the recipes that you're cooking, and then we get on and cook together. So that's what it looks like. I recommend spending around 2 hours per week on the course. This includes cooking time. So you're cooking anyway, you may as well be cooking these recipes. That's how I see it. Okay, so what do you get? You get the recipes. This is the big, this is the huge value inside of this course, is you get my entire recipe vault. Every single one has a 2-minute little video. So you can actually just, I love to streamline things, and I'm obsessed with this concept of kitchen flow. And I think one of the most important things is being able to learn from seeing sometimes. So watching a 2-minute video, rather than, do you know that feeling when you're like reading a recipe and you're like, I'm having to, okay, so what am I doing? I'm stirring the thing and then blah, 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 blah. But if you just like see it and hear it, it like goes in so much faster. So it's removing that other layer. So you get all of my recipes. We've got heaps of beautiful meal prep, savory and sweet options for breakfast. We've got soups, stews, all nutrient dense. It's not just meat, by the way. Lifeblood is about like the recipes that are the lifeblood of your kitchen. We're focusing on the important nutrient dense foods so that you can then relax and know that you're getting enough. So we're also focusing on making your own fats, how to make ghee, how to make tallow. We're focusing on, dairy as well, and like eggs. So it's just basically high quality animal foods and how to incorporate those. Because really, it's not that hard to cook up your veggies and, your carbs around that once you've got these pieces sorted. So yeah, I kind of already said that piece, but yeah, obviously there's so many recipes on the internet, but just so nice to be served up specific recipes that are going to be easy, they've been highly curated for hormonal health, and that they all fit together. So that's the fun thing as well, is like my recipes, like once you make one, you're like, okay, cool, I've made the bolognese, I can now make the lasagna and the loaded spuds and whatever. So I give you more recipes to cook with the one recipe so that they all, we're basically just building a mind map in your brain of all the different things you could possibly cook, so that, it speeds up the process and reduces the mental load of cooking. So, simplification. Yeah, just that simplification piece I feel like is so key, because we don't want to be overwhelmed. And yeah, just a note, like obviously we're focusing on female health, but these are really, really great for kids, for men, for everyone, no matter what your sex is. This is like, we're focusing on adrenal health, gut health, we're focusing on blood sugar, we're focusing on nutrient density. This food's good for everyone. It's just really, really good for females. One of the things you get access to inside of the course is the chat. So Voxer chat goes off. It's so, so nice, because it's like, sometimes you're doing a course and you're like, it's on my computer. Like, you're not like easily reminded of being that you're in the course and that you're doing it. So it's like when you have it on your phone, you've got a little chat there. It's literally like a group message between friends. We're sharing photos. You can ask questions. Everyone's chatting, and you're able to just stay in the energy of the course. It's 8 weeks for a reason. Like it's long enough, but it's not too long. You can stay actively, motivated for that amount of time. It's like just the right amount of time, I find. So also these are just like beautiful things that I was like, oh, I'll screenshot that because that makes a great testimonial. So you can see people eliminating their feeling hangry. So she said, I just made it through the work week without being hangry once. Boom, this is a great news for me, but also for my clients. Haha. And then, Lifeblood has given me a framework of meal prepping and helped me back into my creativity in the kitchen. So many of these recipes are going to be my staples. Lucia's approach to batch cooking makes it feel so much easier. And then I can't read it because there's something else in there, like something in the way. But you get the vibe. Love this one as well. Can't get over it. It's so good, so easy. Can't get over it. Feel so resourceful. So yeah, this is just to show you that it is legit. People go through this, and it's a real thing that you can benefit from. I'm not making it up. Here's some more images of beautiful things, so you can just like imagine with me for a sec that this is you. You've sent in your testimonial at the end of the 2 months. You finally just like, sometimes people can save up to like $200. I don't personally buy takeaway, but if you're in the habit of that and if that's something that you want to eliminate, you can save up to like $200 on takeaway a month. You're imagine your last 2 cycles less heavy the week before your period. You're like, I'm definitely less irritable. You're a month into having killer breakfast and you're feeling the difference with your energy throughout the day. You have at least 3 nights off cooking per week and your meals are way less boring. Okay, you get the picture, but just entertain what that would look like specifically for you. So here's the bonuses part. So this course doesn't actually sell for $867, but that's what the value is when I individually price it out. Obviously it's a bundle, so if the numbers aren't making sense for you, that's why. But you get everything inside of this course, Cyclecraft. It's a bundle of different trainings. So I just wanted to make this like absolutely over the top and just give you as much as possible, so that you're able to focus on tracking your cycle. The big difference between, like, if you're like, what's the difference between Lifeblood? Lifeblood is mainly focusing on cooking and recipes. And then inside of Cyclecraft, we're layering in how to actually track ovulation, how to understand like cervical mucus and what that means for your hormones, and how to what else is in there? You get my complete cooking circle collection. I'm just going to zoom along because I know that there's more slides on exactly what's in there. This is everything that's in there. You get, essentially, when you join in the next 72 hours, so you got 3 days, think about it, read the sales page, feel into it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if this is right for you, and if it's calling you, I want you to join us, jump in and ask me any questions if you have them. Total value, $867, but you get it for free. This is what's included. So you get my Moon Menu Master, you get my Moon Menu Calendar Masterclass. So you get this beautiful cheat sheet of like what your different seasons mean, what your energy, the self-care, the cooking, and what you should be focusing on all month long. And you get an entire masterclass explaining all of that for you. I just realized I've lost the chat, so I'm just going to bring that up in case anyone's saying some things I need to say. Have to go. You're so welcome, lovely. Feel free to share your biggest takeaway in the chat if you would like to. And what was I going to say? Remember, I'm pretty much nearly there, and then I'm going to give away the prizes and give everyone the PDF. Oh, Brianna, that's so nice. I have the Moon Menu poster right next to me. I love that. That's so sweet. Okay, sweet. Side note here, I know I'm like trying to be succinct, but it's so nice to just have it on your calendar and on your fridge, this calendar, and put your like a fridge magnet where you are at in your cycle, so everyone in your house can see where you're at. This is the Art of Tracking Your Cycle and the Power of Ovulation Masterclass. Again, just from this workshop, you know how important it is. And this is just all the information on how to start tracking like a pro. You also get my entire Cooking Circle collection. So there's one on breakfast, there's one on protein, there's one on my freezer method. So if you're really wanting to actually just take my batching sessions and repeat them and take the thinking out of it, this is one of the main reasons to join, to get this bonus, because you're going to love those. They're 2-hour masterclasses. So I'm actually teaching a workshop on those topics. So I'm diving deeply into breakfast, diving deeply into protein. So if everything you learned today, but more depth. And then you get all the recipes, everything sent to you, so you can just show up and cook with me in real time on those videos. You get also some bonus interviews that I've done with experts in the field who I adore, and you get some more recipes, one for each phase of the cycle. So that's CycleCraft. Don't feel overwhelmed. If you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff, just think about it as like extra bonus stuff, $800 or more worth of stuff you can tap into over time. You don't need to do all the things straight away. It's all good. So well done. Thanks for staying with me till the end. And let's pick some winners. So Rochelle, if you just want to share the PDF for the Rising Rhythm Breakfast Formula. And then if everyone just wants to share their takeaways from today's session, and I'm just going to pick some comments. I'm going to pick 10 winners, and everyone gets a $50 voucher to spend at Ambrosia's table in the next 30 days. Splitting breakfast up into more than one meal would be my lifesaver, I think. Yes. Oh, I'm so grateful I'm so glad that helped, Cassidy, because I feel like, it's definitely, it was an aha moment for me, and I definitely know it's been an aha moment for many others as well. Love knowing that breakfast doesn't have to be eaten all at once. Yay. Take the pressure off, babe. So good. Enjoy that Rising Rhythm Breakfast Formula, girls. I hope that's useful, so you can have all the lists there and you can be reminded. Keep me posted on Instagram. Even if you don't join the course, I want to hear how you're going. I want to see photos of your breakfasts. And good luck. The end. All right, so I'm going to pick a winner. Pick a winner. Anyway, biggest takeaways: splitting breakfast up, protein smoothies are okay, just need to use the right protein. Yes. Freezer bags. Yes. It's been really great for me diving into the freezer bags. It's like so fun to just like have new ideas that are like, oh, this actually really works and I love this. And make sure to drop it in the chat if you are going to join us for Lifeblood, or if you're thinking about it. I'd love to know as well. So Rochelle, would you be able to just go into the participants list and randomly choose 10 people and then just private message them, or just type their name into the chat maybe? And then what I'll get you girls to do, if you are one of the lucky winners, just send me a DM on Instagram and then I'll send you the coupon code. So make sure to send me a DM, because otherwise I can't get it to you, all right? Definitely worth thinking about. Cooking with friends sounds so fun. Yeah, absolutely. Thinking of meal planning as a stress management tool is my biggest takeaway. Cool. Yeah. Oh, it's major. There's so many sneaky sources of stress, aren't there? So once we've picked, thanks so much, Luge. So great, even for postmenopause. Yay, so glad, Bethy. So once we've picked the winners, then I'll close up for the day. But thanks for spending the time with me. Hope you got heaps of good stuff out of it. And I'm excited. I'm excited to kick Lifeblood off, and I hope that you join us, because I forgot to say, I don't know if I did say, but I don't know when I'm going to be holding it again. This sounds like it's like one of those marketing things, but I literally am not planning on holding it live again, at least for the next 2 years. So if you love the live stuff, if you're like, I actually love accountability, I love the sound of the chat, I love the idea of cooking with friends in the kitchen, then make sure to join us for this live round. And again, 72 hours to get those, all of those bonuses and the early bird price. clarification on the moon and menstrual cycle energies. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I'll never forget when I first learned about my menstrual cycle. And like, I was so lucky because I just happened to be able to trade babysitting with a friend's mum who was teaching an in-person course on like menstrual cycle awareness. And I was like literally 20, I want to say, maybe even 19. And it just like blew my mind. I was like, what? Just felt like so connected to nature and like the moon. It was just like such a, yeah, come to Jesus moment. Okay. Definitely looking at joining. Oh, exciting, Sarah. Question. Is an Instagram account necessary, not a social? No, absolutely don't need Instagram. So the app that we use to chat is called Voxer. It's a voice messaging app, primarily, but you can also share like texts and what else? Photos. Sorry, brain fart. Yes, please don't feel like you have to have social media. Same brekkie thing for me. My kids have already eaten 2 breakfasts. Why am I not doing the same? Yes. Eat like your children, son. You're so welcome, Pauline. She says, thanks so much for all the wisdom. So excited to start implementing amazing tips and formulas and love the fact that the course will be live. I am keen. Yes. Awesome. So, Rochelle, have we picked the people? Awesome. Sorry if I missed that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Lovely to spend time with you. Thank you for coming and sending you so much love. I'll see you soon. Ciao.